morning in America. You know, Jack Kemp introduced me to a lot of great people. Maybe Bart Starr was the best, but the second best was Herman Cain. Hello, Herman. Good morning.
Good morning, Bill. It is a pleasure to be with you, my friend.
That's a funny thing to say. Oh, man, I mean, all those football players. Oh, it was a great introduction. Herman, you were on fire, man. You did great in South Carolina. They loved you.
Well, thank you. You know, the best advice that my chief of staff gave me as I got ready to go out on that stage, he said, Herman, don't be perfect, be Herman. And you know what, Bill? That's what I did. And I said, if being Herman resonates with the people and the way that I respond to questions, so be it. And if it didn't, so be it. But obviously a lot of people could connect with what I had to say. And I got to be honest with you. I've been saying those same things while I have been out on the campaign journey, as I call it, talking to people, and it's connecting. And that's been the most consistent feedback that I've gotten from folks, is that they know that this administration is being deceptive. They know that things are not getting done in Washington, D.C. And when I tell people that, you know, I wear it with a badge of honor that I've never held public office, and they applaud. And so I don't think that that's a barrier in the minds of anybody other than maybe some of the the traditional political thinkers.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I don't think it hurts. Just remind people there are honorable public servants. Some of us tried to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, we tried to do it right. But listen, about being yourself, it is so clear when these guys are doing off talking points and some contrived speech coach or something, and that's clearly what came across. Let me deal with some preliminary matters and then let you go. First of all, we just had a lady call who said her son was a manager for you at Godfather.
Wow.
And you used to call all the new managers. So they know who you were, and you knew who they were.
Yes, because I like to connect with the folk, and that's the same thing that I would do as president, connect with the people. Because, Bill, as you know, any successful large organization won't be successful unless the CEO or the president or the head of the company connects with the people all the way up and down the line. One of my guiding principles throughout business, and it's a guiding principle that I also would use as president, and that is go to the people closest to the problem if you want to find out the solution.
Right.
I got solutions when I went and talked with the managers and talked with the crew members and talked with the customers. This is what's missing with the way government is being run in Washington, D.C.
Right.
They are talking at the people, not listening to the people or talking with the people. And that is the difference, because I believe that the commander-in-chief also has to be the communicator-in-chief.
Right.
And that's the philosophy that I plan to use going forward.
That gives rise to the question, which people have said, because you got a lot of fans, people said, I wish he'd said something different on Afghanistan. But I think this was the point you were trying to make. Go to the people who have the best information, and then you take the responsibility for the decision.
Exactly. Too often, Bill, the media and other people, not you, of course, try to push you into giving a what I call instant grits answer to stuff. Afghanistan is too complicated. It's not instant grits.
Yeah.
And the point that I was trying to make, and a couple of reporters have tried to nail me on the same issue ever since last Thursday night, and I keep making my point. Folks, there's a lot of information I'm not privy to. I'm not going to make the mistake that President Obama made and talk about a date-certain departure from Afghanistan, just like he said he was going to close Gitmo. Well, he found that it wasn't as easy as he thought. A responsible leader makes decisions based upon having all of the appropriate information at hand. I would have to consider the information from the intelligence agencies. I want to talk to the intelligence agencies about what really is our relationship with Afghanistan, because as we found out with Pakistan, there are some question marks. So why make a statement until I have that information, as well as talk to the generals on the ground, talk to the experts, get a collective recommendation from there, and then make the decision. That's what I call responsible decision-making.
No, that's right. Let me just tell you very quickly, and if it's of any use to you, fine. We had some success when I was drug policy director, drug czar. You know, the way I did that job, I had a series of meetings, 2 weeks. One day I met for 5 hours with cops.
Right.
The next day I met for 5 hours with treatment specialists.
The
next day with drug counselors from the schools. Then the military interdiction people.
Yep.
Find out, as you said as a manager, from the people who were there on the ground. Yep. Then I made the decision. I wrote the National Drug Control Strategy. They didn't, and I took responsibility for it.
Bill, that is exactly how I plan to approach every one of these serious issues we face, doing just that. That's why you were successful at that. I described to my audiences now that we have become a nation of crises, and we've got to take that approach that you just described in order to address each and every one of them. We've got a moral crisis. We've got an economic crisis. The economy is not growing. We've got an entitlement spending crisis. We got to restructure these programs. We can't just keep cutting and changing benefits. We've got an energy crisis, and we've got a crisis with respect to just leadership in this country. And so the way you get at those and the way you come up with some solutions, go to the people closest to the problem. And so I will resist throwing out these, quick fix ideas about some of these very complicated issues. Now, when you talk about the economy, then I already have my ideas about what we need to do.
Sure.
We've got some things in the short term and some things in the long term. I'm defining short term as something that I would want the Congress to send me in the first 60 days of the new Congress with H.R. 1, and that is some direct stimulus. We got to lower the top corporate tax rates and the top personal rates. It worked for Coolidge in the 20s. It worked for Kennedy in the 60s. It worked for Reagan in the 80s. It'll work again. And we just have to fight back the demagoguery. Then we also need to take capital gains tax rates to zero. We need to also suspend taxes on repatriated profits and then provide a real payroll tax holiday, 6.2% for employees and for employers. That's direct stimulus. In other words, the best way to stimulate the economy is the same way you and I just talked about how do you solve problems. Let the people who earn it keep more of it. And then they will decide whether they spend it and how they will save it. And then here's how you put a bow around it, Bill. Make them permanent. Uncertainty is killing this economy.
Right.
It's killing it. And so that would be phase one, some immediate injection to stimulate this economy to get the nearly 15 million people unemployed back to work, as well as those that are underemployed.
Perfect. Now, see, this seems to me to be a great example. We're talking to Herman Cain, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if anybody doesn't know, and Herman's going to stay with us another segment. We'll try to get a call or two in. You are talking about what you just talked about from a perspective of expertise. You've been a businessman all your life.
Yes.
You know what you're talking about. Seems to me perfectly reasonable, indeed expected, that a man would say, these things I'm talking about, I know about, I've spent my life in them. Yes. Afghanistan, I haven't spent my life in.
Right.
I'm going to talk to these people who are expert, but I will take the responsibility.
You're absolutely right.
People to act as if they're expert, on everything. It's just, it's crazy. Nobody is. Nobody is.
And I think people will respect me
they
more
will.
of saying the things that I don't know and then the things that I do know and then tell them why. But I also emphasize how I would go about approaching these. My problem-solving approach is make sure you identify the right problem. Make sure you set the right priorities. Surround yourself with good people. Most of them are going to be smarter than me. And then put together the plans, and then you execute. And then the president's job, in my opinion, becomes doing a lot of communicating with the public, because you got to fight off the demagoguery of the people who want to kill it and maintain the status quo. I happen to believe that the American people are ready for that sort of message.
Good. Tell me, I hadn't heard you lately on this. I've heard you before because I've known you for years, but tell me about the moral crisis.
The moral crisis is this attempt to take God out of our culture, to omit God out of the founding principles of this country. When the President of the United States intentionally omits endowed by their Creator multiple times, Bill, the American people have a problem with that. When a United States Congresswoman by the name of Betty McCollum from Minnesota leads our House of Representatives in the Pledge of Allegiance and omits under God, people have a problem with that. When the administration is so concerned about being politically correct and not offending people, that it offends all of the Christians and the Jews that live in this country, people have a problem with that. And then so when the kids growing up in school don't hear it on TV, don't see it in stuff, and it's basically trying to keep it in the background, guess what? They don't have that moral compass that they need, that you and I got when we were growing up in this sort of thing. And so people want to get back to keeping God, which was in our founding principles, back in our culture. That's what this is all about.
I got it. Tell us, if you will, I told my audience earlier, there are only about 25 stories I remember from my life. One of them is Herman Cain and the little girl at the lemonade stand, one of the most popular commercials on TV now. Do a 1-minute version, because, man, I think it ought to be part of your stuff.
Free enterprise works just like the old-fashioned lemonade stand. One day I was coming home. I was living in Omaha, Nebraska, and my little girl who lived next door, she and her friend were out there, they had a little lemonade stand, and she was jumping up and down. Mr. Cain, would you buy a cup of lemonade for me? And I said, sure, Becca. I said, where did you get the lemons from? She said, oh, my mom gave me the lemons. Oh, okay. Well, where'd you get the sugar? Well, my friend, her mom gave us the sugar, and we made the lemonade. I said, oh, so they donated these things to you. Yes. Well, you got to keep a record of that, so when you file your income taxes, you'll be able to, write that off, whether they are independent contractor or whether they're your business people. I said, by the way, did you get a permit to put this card table on the sidewalk? She goes, no. I said, is your friend an employee or is she a business partner? I don't know. And I said, what are you going to do with all of the profits you make after you make all this money today? I don't know. I said, and after a while, I kept asking. I said, oh, by the way, don't forget you got to get the OSHA permits in order to make sure that the lemonade is safe for everybody to drink. I said, so she looked at me stunned and said, Mr. Cain, I think I'll just go ask my dad for some money.
Yeah. Boy, it's all there. It's all there.
All there. We've allowed it to get out of hand, Bill.
No, it's a beautiful story. Once upon a time, it's a beautiful, beautiful story. And let me get a quick comment, and we're going to let you talk to the listeners. We got only about 4,000 phone calls. Quick comment on the president and Osama bin Laden. And how about those Navy SEALs, huh?
Let's first commend those Navy SEALs for doing that outstanding job with none of them getting hurt. Secondly, I applaud the president for making the decision.
Good for you.
In order to do that. I mean, he deserves credit for that because I'm sure that it was an agonizing decision to make. But people should be reminded that this whole mission started under a previous administration, and President Obama was in a position to make that decision. So I applaud the fact that he made that decision.
I do too. He could have thanked President Bush, though. You know, he was in the slipstream of Bush. It was all enabled there.
Exactly. And the thing, now that being said, I think turning it into a photo op at Ground Zero when he had never been there before. Some people are going to see through that. Some people aren't, but some people are going to see through that. Just like now, he's giving speeches on immigration, and he's blaming the Republicans. So, one right decision doth not a presidency make.
Hard break coming up. Do you know what that means, Mr. Cain?
Pay the bills.
We'll be right back with Herman Cain. I love this guy.